So, really excited to announce Art's last presentation.
Yeah.
Before his retirement.
Well, don't be that excited about it.
We're gonna really much miss you a lot.
Thank you.
Just want to say that. Art has worked with us through SMA for the last 6 years, and it's been an amazing experience. So thank you very much again for that, Art.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to hold this up any further and let you get this over with. So Art's going to talk about a whole bunch of different topics in regards to SMA. So
thank you very much. Yeah. I feel like a rock star here, pulling the microphone off. There we go. Yeah, thank you, Danny. It's been a real pleasure working with Frankensolar. The backstory here is I'm retiring on May 5th. And this has been a phenomenal experience working with SMA and then specifically with Frankensolar. Frankensolar is a distributor that I've really spent a lot of time with, and I think we've had very good success together, and really a top tier distributor for us. They're a top distributor by an order of magnitude in Canada. And I'm the territory sales manager for the Great Lakes region in the US, which is the Midwest, 13 states in the Midwest, and all of Canada. And Frankensolar is probably the distributor I've worked the closest with, and I think you've had the most success with here. So gonna really miss you guys. But May 5th is my last day, Cinco de Mayo, and that is gonna be a very good beer. Yeah, yeah. I'm based, by the way, in Northern Ohio. We don't have my replacement hired yet. They're actively recruiting for that. But if you take my business card, just FYI, if you take my business card and you reach out to that, it'll be forwarded to, on an interim basis, to whoever the team that's going to be supporting this region until my replacement's in place. So you'll be in good hands. So kind of the level set here, we're going to just, here's the agenda, give you a quick background on SMA. And by the way, this is a little intimidating for those of you that sat in Alex's presentation. Following Alex is not an easy thing to do. I am not an engineer. I do have an electronics background, but I am not an engineer, and I will not be able to go into the depth that Alex goes in. But just FYI, on any of this, if I can't answer questions, now or in the future, we do have an applications engineering team, which, by the way, and I know I'm giving a lot of compliments to Frankensolar, but it's well deserved. Our management team, including product management, really values Frankensolar's opinion on what's happening in the market, particularly in Canada, but overall, the knowledge that your team has on competition, what's happening in the market, what makes most sense for specific applications. This team with Frankensolar is outstanding, and Alex in particular, from a technical standpoint, our applications engineering team and product management team rely on him quite a bit. So really top-notch organization. But we have, as I'm alluding to, we have applications engineers. Although I'm not an engineer, if I and my counterparts can't answer your questions for you, we pull in our applications engineers and work with you to answer those questions. But I'm going to give a quick overview on SMA to kind of level set on who we are, what our position is in the marketplace. And then I'm going to go into our home solutions, energy systems, the new SMA energy system I'll be talking about, as well as our legacy product. And then I'm going to talk about C&I solutions and then some large scale. So that's what we're going to be covering. It's going to be more of a product overview sort of approach. So, as somebody was just asking Alex about, if he'd been to our corporate headquarters in Kassel, Germany, that's headquarters for us. We are a German company. Our engineering and manufacturing is done in Germany. And we've been in business since 1981. We're the oldest inverter manufacturer in the industry. And I started, and just FYI, a little background on me, not that it's really that relevant, especially now that I'm leaving, but I started with a large installer in Austin, Texas. I live in Ohio, northern Ohio, but at the time I was living in Texas. And they were a commercial installer, and we did primarily SMA work. So I've always had a very high opinion of SMA, so when I got this job, I sort of felt like I won the lotto, and it's been a great experience. I work for SMA America, so everything you all, if you would be doing any SMA projects, would be from SMA America. It's SMA America is the North American subsidiary for SMA, so the US, Canada, Mexico. We are one of 21 subsidiaries around the world. We're a global company, and we've got installations in over 190 countries worldwide. What gets a little confusing here, I'll just also mention this, is there are products available in other markets that are not necessarily available in North America, so it can add to some confusion sometimes. So engineering, what we do is we'll take a given product, like one of our commercial inverters, for instance, and we try to leverage it in many markets across the globe as possible, but not every product that SMA offers is available in North America. We've got experience in battery systems, and I know have had some conversations with some of you. You've used some of our off-grid solutions or grid-tied solutions. So we've been in the battery or energy management space for a long time. Did I miss a slide? Okay. So yeah, we have products in the home space, the C&I space, large scale space, including utility scale. Now today I'm not going to talk about our central inverters per se. Central inverters, we have a direct team, that's all they deal in, or utility scale, I mean really large utility scale, like 30 megawatt type projects and greater. But I'm going to be talking about home solutions, C&I. I'm not really going to be talking about off-grid because it's more of a niche sort of thing. But my experience with SMA when I started as an installer, on the installer end of things, is not only were the products good, but the support was very good. And I'm not going to say, now that I'm an employee, you kind of have a different view of things. You know the good, the bad, whatever. I don't think any organization is perfect from a service standpoint, and we've certainly gone through growing pains. But overall, our service is very good, and we take it very seriously, and we're consistently rated high in service. So that's kind of who SMA is. And jumping into the actual product solutions, first thing I want to talk about is our home solutions. And maybe by a show of hand, how many are involved in residential installations here? Okay. How about commercial, C&I sort of stuff? So it's a pretty even split here. Okay. So our go-to residential product, our PV inverter, has been our Sunny Boy product line. With one more show of hands here, how many have installed Sunny Boy inverters? A couple of you. Okay, this product is the Sunny Boy product is going to be replaced by a new product line, but this product is still in the market in terms of new installations, but it's coming to an end. It'll be fully supported, and I'm going to talk about it because a lot of what I'm going to talk about on the Sunny Boy is relevant to our other inverters. So just kind of level setting with this. So the Sunny Boy has been available for about 10 years approximately. And on the low end, size-wise, it's a 3 kW, and then on the biggest end, on the large end, it's a 7.7 kW inverter. And the larger inverters have 3 strings, 3 MPPTs, 3 independent NPPTs. But some of the functionality in this product, as it's noted here, we've got the DC disconnect in it. From a communication standpoint, and I'm going to put a little asterisk on this, we have Ethernet communications, 2 Ethernet, hardwire Ethernet ports, and Wi-Fi communications for commissioning the inverter if you want to commission it from a laptop or something like that. You can commission it right from Wi-Fi communications. Likewise, you can communicate to a Wi-Fi router back to our monitoring portal on it. The asterisk on that is this product, like a lot of products, has been hit with global supply chain shortages. Specifically on this one, our Wi-Fi chip set on this. So we are now, the units we're shipping now don't have Wi-Fi in them, but that's kind of our workaround solution on this. They also have what we're calling Smart Connected. Smart Connected, which I'll touch on more, is an automatic air monitoring and air notification system, and I'll talk about that more. They also have integrated SunSpec rapid shutdown, which I'll also talk about more. And then we have shade fix, integrated optimization. All of these things I'll talk about a little more. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about here, or point out here, is we support hundreds of stringing configurations on this, and what we provide optimization on this, but we're not doing it at the module level, like a module level optimizer. We're doing system optimization by virtue of our MPPT algorithm, which is called shade fix. And what shade fix is a very sophisticated MPPT algorithm. And what we're trying to show here is on this blue curve here, this is your, pristine power curve, your voltage current curve or IV curve where there's no shading. This is what it would look like, and this being your global maximum power point. In reality, most arrays, particularly on the residential space, have a little bit of shading on there. I'll put this down. Have a little bit of shading on there. So the curve really looks more like this. It's lumpy, and you've got your global maximum power point, and you have local maximum power points. Shade fix is keying on that regularly and sweeping on that regularly and maximizing the power production on that. And I think the curve does a sweep, I think it's about every 6 minutes on there. And there was a third-party study done by the University of Denmark that was released 2 or 3 years ago, that it was a year-long study, and they compared SMA, Sunny Boys actually, to a couple different module level optimizers, Solar Edge and Tigo, coincidentally, and they tested it in a lot of different scenarios, different shading scenarios over the course of the year. And the conclusion was in 95% of the installations, we produce more power than module level optimizers. The only scenario where the module level optimizer outproduced shade fix was when you had quickly changing shading conditions. So if you were like in a coastal area with a lot of clouds that were passing by quickly, very marginally, module level optimizers might outperform from a power production standpoint. But 95% of the time, shade fix outproduces, is what this study concluded. We think, here's the benefits of shade fix and our architecture in general. We're doing optimization, and I'm kind of underscoring that again. We're doing optimization, but we're doing it at the inverter level. And as I've touched on, ShadeFix outperforms module level optimizer from just a power production standpoint most of the time. But the other big point of that is reliability. We think inherently putting active electronics on the roof is a bad idea. You know, that's a hostile environment. That just, you know, optimizers, even if there's no shading there, they're adjusting voltages at each optimizer. So, you know, that you've got that issue in addition to it just being a hostile environment. And, you know, the whole point of module level rapid shutdown is for safety of the first responders, but who's taking into account the safety of you know, the organization doing operations and maintenance on these, because the failure rate on module level optimizers is high. So we think this, from an architectural standpoint, is just a superior way to go. All right. Our residential inverters and our commercial inverters include SunSpec rapid shutdown transmitters integrated into the inverter. And are you all familiar with SunSpec rapid shutdown, how it works, what it is? No? Okay. Well, SunSpec, first of all, is a industry organization whose mandate is to define standards in the solar industry. And you know, all the manufacturers in this industry essentially are SunSpec members. And so when the industry is developing a standard, they'll pull from their membership and they'll put together a committee. And that's what they did on rapid shutdown. So in the US, we have the National Electric Code, for instance. The National Electric Code says how things, or says what has to happen, but it doesn't necessarily say how it has to happen. So, you know, the 2017 code cycle of the National Electric Code said you've got to be able to de-energize the DC conductors below a certain voltage level within a certain amount of time. Didn't really care how it did that, how you accomplished that, but you had to accomplish that at the module level. So what SunSpec did was pull together a committee to come up with an industry standard on this, on how to do that. And they pulled together, I think, 30 different manufacturers sat on that committee, including SMA and all the big inverter manufacturers, and came up with a standard for this, and they call it SunSpec Rapid Shutdown. So the way SunSpec Rapid Shutdown works, as long as you have AC power at the inverter, a keep alive signal is being transmitted over the DC conductors here using an old technology called power line communications. Power line communications is just the signaling type over the DC conductors. It's used in a lot of different industries for different things, but the keep alive signal is unique to this. So as long as there's AC power here, that keep alive signal is being sent to what's referred to as a SunSpec receiver. And the SunSpec receiver is listening all the time. As long as that signal's there, keeps the DC conductors connected, essentially. Once that signal goes, once the AC power is lost or the AC disconnect is flipped, the signal goes away, the receiver recognizes it and goes into a rapid shutdown mode in an NEC, National Electric Code compliant fashion. So the hope, the promise of SunSpec is standardization and interoperability between manufacturers. The reality is that's the hope. We're really not there yet in terms of total interoperability between manufacturer A and B's SunSpec devices. We offer, SMA offers a product called the JMS-F. It's not certified here in Canada, so it's not offered here. But we do support a third-party product, and we've certified it for us to certify a product, not only does it have to be certified, be SunSpec certified by SunSpec, the organization, but we have to go through a testing regimen as well. And the only third party we've done that with thus far successfully is AP Smart. We don't offer AP Smart, you do, don't you? Frankensolar does. And so they have a single unit and they have a duo unit. And this is now the duo unit is supported on our both our residential as well as our commercial products. The single unit is supported on all of them as well. This has been a good product, by the way, just side note here, it's less expensive than SMA's receiver as well. So this is for those that require this level of rapid shutdown, this is probably the way to go. I mentioned our inverters have this, this feature called Smart Connected. Smart Connected is automatic air monitoring and automatic air notification. It's really a function of our monitoring portal. Our monitoring portal is called Sunny Portal. We added this feature maybe 3 years ago-ish, and in Canada, I think we added it about 2 years ago. And you do need to turn the feature on in the inverter. And so what it does is it's monitoring it's pinging the inverter on a regular interval for error codes. In the event that it sees an error code, it will notify whoever is associated with this power plant, and you define that as whoever installs this, you define who gets the error notifications, and you can have multiple people receiving this. But it'll take the air and it'll put it into one of 4 categories. Communications errors, software errors, production errors, hardware errors. And it'll take that error, it'll take that code, translate it into something meaningful. What does this mean? And will also give you some recommended corrective actions on it. The real, I think, big value on this is when it's a hardware error, we'll automatically open up a trouble ticket or a case and we'll automatically initiate the RMA process. So in principle, a replacement can be on its way before maybe you even were aware there was an error of any sort. And there's no charge for this as long as the product's under warranty. Smart Connected is available. But as I mentioned, you've got to turn the feature on.
We've actually had that happen a few years ago where all of a sudden we got a phone call from a customer and they're like, why is there an inverter in front of our office? And it turns out one of their clients had an RMA case and SMA sent an RMA straight to the customer, to the installer, to then go and replace the inverter for the customer. So real proactive approach by SMA and definitely reduces downtime for the end customer.
Right. So that's about all I wanted to talk about on what I'll call the legacy version of our Sunny Boy. Any questions on this before I go on to the new Sunny Boy Smart Energy product? No? Okay. Okay, the new Sunny Boy Smart Energy. First of all, what this is a PV inverter with energy management options. You can use it as a PV inverter and then add energy management. That's it from a high level standpoint. This product, like a lot of things, has been affected by global supply chain shortages. This was supposed to be out the end of 2022, and here we are. And it's painful for me to say, but this is delayed probably till Q4 before the first iteration of this is going to be available. I'll also mention the first iteration is not going to have all the energy management features available, but they'll be able to be added on. So you're, the initial product, you're not, losing anything in it. You can upgrade it to the full energy management functionalities as they become available in subsequent releases, which would probably be within, 30 to 90 days thereafter. They'll have a new release and then a new release of it. And it's a completely new form factor. This is the first, use this. This is the PV inverter portion of it. If you want to add energy management, and there'll be an additional enclosure for it. We're also including with this our 360 app, which you'll be able to commission right from the app, so that'll simplify commissioning on there. Some differences in it are you'll be able to extend the warranty to 25 years. Like our current Sunny Boy, it comes with a 10-year warranty, but the current Sunny Boy, you can extend the warranty to 20 years. This you'll be able to extend to 25. Another key note on this, the current Sunny Boy on the small end is 3 kW. This will be 3.8, which we don't think that's an issue at all. The good news is we have 2 larger power classes of this available. The current Sunny Boy only goes up to 7.7 kW. The 2 larger power classes will be 9.6 and 11.4 kW. And the market has been bugging us, has been really pushing us for a larger inverter on that. The 2 larger units will have 4 strings, 4 MPPTs on it. We support in this product a 200% AC to DC ratio on it. The real issue is what we call full load hours. So there's a calculation where it's basically your annual production amount, not to exceed a certain amount. And it's very difficult to ever hit that number, but that's the real key. And we have a white paper on that. If you're getting into these large DC to AC ratios, you definitely, and by the way, our calculation tool will flag this as well if you're getting close to full load hours. So I think I've pretty much talked about all of this. It includes smart connected, it includes shade fix. One other thing, and this is a real important note here, it includes what we call the integrated system manager. And for those of you that have done SMA installations before, perhaps you've used what we call our data manager. Our data manager is our data collection device, our data aggregation device that reports up to our monitoring portal. So you can build larger power plants and then have some additional functionality. With the integrated integrated system manager, essentially what we've done is added the data manager functionality right in the inverter. That's a big deal. From a management standpoint, it gets you into, not so relevant on the residential space, but I'll mention, this gets you into our latest generation monitoring portal, which is called NXOS Sunny Portal, which is a more sophisticated monitoring platform. But the real, I think, value proposition in this is by virtue of the data manager type functionality, it allows you to do remote parameterization of the inverter. So you don't necessarily, if you need to make a change on the inverter, you don't have to be on site, you can do it remotely. It also gives our service organization the ability to do those kind of things and provide a higher level and better support for you, and it gives them more visibility into your inverters. So that comes standard now. And as I mentioned, this includes some energy management functionality. We have 3 levels of energy management. We got on the low end what we call backup secure, then we've got a mid-level, calling backup select, and then we've got full home backup with high voltage batteries. But for those of you that have been involved with SMA residential inverters for some time, you may be aware of this feature in our Sunny Boys that we've had for a long time, and it's standard in our Sunny Boys. It's called the secure power supply. Anybody use that? So what it is it's a 110 volt outlet that you can power as long as the array is producing. You can power that outlet up, and it's an outlet that you have to wire up to it, but the function's in the inverter. And you can power it up to about 3,000 watts. It's a neat feature. A lot of people really liked it, but with the advent of module level rapid shutdown, think about it. What happens in module level rapid shutdown? The module, with AC power lost, the module is disconnected essentially. So there's nothing to power that secure power supply. So that function has been rendered useless for most cases. With this feature, we've engineered around it. So I don't quite know, the only information I've seen on this thus far is preliminary information. I don't really know exactly how they engineered around it, but they've engineered around it. So they're keeping you'll have the ability to keep even with module level rapid shutdown, there's a workaround around that. So that feature's back, and we're calling it backup secure. We have a mid-level version, which is kind of this, but a higher wattage, so you can support perhaps a small sub panel or something of that nature in a similar way as the secure power supply, but you'll be able to provide higher wattage to that. And then we have full home backup. So I don't know if I had that picture or not. So that would be the enclosure. If you're going to do any of those features, you'd add that enclosure, and then you'd add the functionality that you want to it. So it'll have the transfer switch, that sort of thing in there, and it'll be DC connected. So that's about all I want to say on this. It's got the shade fix functionality, as I mentioned. It's got smart connected functionality. Any questions on this at this point? Again, it's going to be available the latter part of this year.
Is there a corresponding commercial product?
Not now. And this kind of falls under the heading of not all products that SMA has available and other markets are available here. We don't have a corresponding product in the C&I space, but it's coming. What it's going to look like, I don't know, but I can tell you, Alex will be in the loop on that. And Alex and Danny, they've had input into some conversations on this already. So, I was in our national sales meeting about a month ago in California. Just FYI, SMA America, the subsidiary I work for, is based in Sacramento, California. I was out in Sacramento. We had our C&I product manager. Something comparable to this in the C&I space is on the roadmap for about a year out. All right. So our flagship commercial inverter is our CORE1. This inverter has been available for several years. We've had three power classes on it. They're all the same form factor, but 3 different power classes. A 33 kW, a 50 kW, and a 62 kW. Just FYI, before we go too far here, we made a decision to no longer offer, in SMA America, to offer the 33 kW. Now, you can do it on a special order basis, but there's got to be a business case for it. And there's a reason for that, is because we're announcing a new inverter. We've announced a new inverter that will be filling that space, we think, in a good way. But what's available now in the CORE1 is the 50 kW and the 62 for all practical purposes. Okay, and what the CORE1 is a 1,000 volt DC, 1,000 volt DC commercial inverter. And as Alex mentioned in the last presentation, in the US, code allows up to 1,000 volt on rooftop. It does not, unlike here in Canada, code does not allow 1,500 volt. This is a 1,000 volt commercial inverter. And it's 12 strings, 6 independent MPPTs, so 6 instances of shade fix. It has a low start voltage, and it's 188 volt start voltage, but once you start, you can operate down to 150 volt. On the AC side, it supports 277, 480 Y. The strength of this product is that it's got a lot of its balance of system functionality standard in the inverter itself. It has a DC disconnect, this being the DC bulkhead right here. On the other side, you've got an AC disconnect on it. This is the DC bulkhead. These are Amphenol UTX connectors. By the way, we ship the mating connectors in the parts bag for this, so they're included with it. Amphenol UTX. And just like the Sunny Boys, it has 2 Ethernet ports. We call it SpeedWire, but it's Ethernet. And it has integrated Wi-Fi communications. Particularly in the commercial space, we strongly encourage you from a communication standpoint to hardwire Ethernet and avoid some of the intermittent problems that you can have with Wi-Fi. And as I've mentioned, this has both smart connected and SunSpec functionality and benefits in it. I also heard Alex mentioned in his last presentation, in the US, well, let me back up. In Canada, as long as you put the inverter within a meter of the array boundary, you don't need module level rapid shutdown. That was the case in the US up until the National Electric Code Cycle 2017. So up until this point, we've had to put module level rapid shutdown devices, which add a lot of expense and failure points, additional connections, which is a big problem. I'll just mention, in the US, we do have this new certification called UL 3741, but it's more complicated than what you have to do here, because it's a certification it's a system certification that includes the racking and the cable, the wire management, and the inverter that has to be certified as a system. So you have the advantage of not having to deal with that. But the CORE1, just FYI, is UL 3741 certified. So in the US, as long as the system is certified for UL 3741, we're compliant on that. Couple points here. Our maximum short circuit current on it is 32 amps, or per string 30 amps, which is being pushed by larger modules these days. So we realize that, but I just wanted to point that out to you. All the benefits of shade fix that I mentioned, in terms of power production, SunSpec rapid shutdown, same functionality, smart connected, and the new commercial inverter that's going to be filling that gap that the CORE1, the 33 kW, addressed is now the Sunny Tripower X. This inverter is starting to ship end of May timeframe, maybe beginning of June is what I'm kind of hearing rumblings on, that we may be at the beginning of June on this. But the Tripower X is a totally different form factor than the CORE1, and it'll have 3 different power ratings available, the 30 kW, 25, and 20. Different form factor, as I mentioned. It's 1,000-volt DC, three independent MPPTs, or instances of shade fix, 2 strings per MPPT, so you avoid the fusing issue. So 6 strings. The operating window is the same on the CORE1. The start voltage is the same. Likewise, the AC is the same. It's 277 480Y. It does have a integrated DC disconnect. It does not have an integrated AC disconnect, just FYI. Oh, by the way, I see IV curve tracing. This is a feature we added to our CORE1s, a software feature, this past year. So that's standard in the CORE1 as well, and it's also standard in the Tripower X. AFCI, as you would expect, smart connected, and it also has the data manager functionality integrated in this standard, or as we're calling it, system manager. So you'll be able to do, have all that benefit that data manager provides you, getting you into ennex OS, Sunny Portal, as well as doing remote parameterization. Now this has...
Can you go back to that one just for a second?
Sure. Okay. Where is this? Okay, so this has an operating current of 24 amps, and then short circuit per MPPT, it's a little higher than the CORE1. It's 37.5 amp. Okay. Size-wise here, there's the dimensions of it. It's, being from the US, I think in pounds. And the operating range is negative 25 to positive 60. And that's not the actual storage, that's the internal operating range. So if it drops below that, the unit will just shut off and go into safety mode until the internal operation or internal temperature is at least negative 25. This, by the way, whereas the CORE1, the DC connectors are Amphenol UTX, these are the new Amphenol connectors, 4H plus connectors. The CORE1 is ideally suited for instance, commercial rooftop, flat rooftop, where it includes rubber feet that in the parts bag that you can install on the bottom, and you don't have to necessarily do any roof penetrations. This, on the other hand, is more of a wall mount architecture. So there's the bracket that is included with it, and it just drops onto the bracket. Then you screw it to the bracket so it can't be removed easily, unless you want it to be removed. There's the DC bulkhead, 6 strings, as I mentioned. One of the knockoffs that we've gotten on the CORE1 is your DC conductors come right into the bulkhead and they're exposed. And so a lot of installers have wanted a shroud around the bulkhead. Now, on the CORE1, we do not offer a shroud option for that. From an environmental standpoint, weather and any of that sort of thing, moisture, no problem at all. But some people don't want those connectors exposed because of different configurations. With this unit, we're going to be offering an optional shroud. Now on the CORE1, just FYI, if you run into a situation where you need that, we do provide CAD drawings for those, but you're on your own to have those produced. But we'll be offering a shroud option on this one. While it's a kind of ideally suited for a wall mount application, that's kind of what the design is around, you can install this on a rooftop down to a 15-degree slope. And we're going to be offering a optional roof mount bracket for that, for those of you that want to install it on a rooftop. It has the same operating range on it, temperature ranges. So that's the new Tripower X, and as mentioned, we're just about to start shipping that at the end of May, early June. Any questions on this? No? Okay. I also want to mention our 1500 volt inverter, and this is a little different than what Alex was just presenting on, but it's a 1500 volt, but this is strictly a ground mount inverter. In the US, the National Electric Code does not allow 1500 volt DC on rooftop. So this does not have some functionality that you would need here in Canada for rooftop. For instance, we do not have AFCI in this product, so we're not detecting for arc fault on it, but that's a non-issue for ground mount. It does not have any of the rapid shutdown functionality in it. If you needed module level rapid shutdown, this does not have the functionality because on ground mount, rapid shutdown is a non-factor. But nonetheless, we have hundreds, if not in fact thousands of these things, I'm sure, installed in Canada. It's a very good ground mount inverter. It's a single string, single MPPT. Given that that's what it's designed for, ground mount, that's sufficient because you don't typically run into any shading issues and orientation issues on ground mount installations. So I just wanted to make you aware of this. As I, in the intro, mentioned, SMA is a leader in utility scale inverters. So we have a series of central inverters. Central inverters are built to order, kind of custom designed for the specific application, really long lead times. It's a totally different animal. This allows you as installers to get involved in some large scale installations, ground mount installations. When we initially released this and started shipping it 2-3 years ago, we kind of envisioned this maybe going up to maybe 10 megawatts range. We're seeing very, very large installations of this because there are some definite advantages of this architecture versus a central inverter. We have 2 power classes of this. We've got 125 kW and 150 kW. Now I show these 2 here, and the reason I do show these is because we announced this, but we've decided these just don't make sense in North America. So unless you do a special order, we're not going to be offering these because of the AC voltages just don't make sense in North America, whereas these are the 2 AC voltages we typically see. So the 125 is 480 volt AC, whereas the 150 is 600 volt AC. And the advantage here versus central inverters is kind of a building block approach. First of all, it allows from an operations and maintenance standpoint, much simpler operations and maintenance. From an installation standpoint, much simpler. And if you have a failure, you're not losing the whole, multiple megawatt central inverter. So some real advantages here.
Is that one throttleable? Can you have?
Oh, yeah, yes, yeah. You can derate it. Is that what you're asking me? Yeah, absolutely.
Based on feedback from the grid instantaneously?
We can adjust parameters. We can respond to Modbus commands, for instance.
Like dynamic derating?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Good.
Yep. Okay. So let me back up to this, just to give you an idea of the size of this unit. 33 inches wide, 32 inches high, 18 inches deep, 218 pounds. So give you an idea of the size of this unit. This is the typical configuration we see. We call that a central architecture, where at a central point, you're stacking these, maybe using Unistrut, what have you, and putting these at a central point, and so it's kind of a rack mount bracket sort of configuration. And you would need to use combiner boxes in conjunction with this, as well as DC disconnects. This does not have a DC disconnect in it, but SMA does not offer, in North America, we don't offer a combiner box with these, but Frankensolar has solutions for you on that with this. But this is a typical configuration, and you typically, what we're showing here from a data acquisition standpoint, that's the data manager that I've been talking about. It has Ethernet communications, and it does not have Wi-Fi communications in it. It does include smart connected, automatic air monitoring notification. And I do want to touch on a couple other things before we finish here, but go ahead.
Actually, a little interesting fact is, I was surprised. I just looked through our data last week, and the Peak3 has actually been our best-selling inverter, which is surprising because we don't sell a ridiculous amount of units, but because they're 150 kilowatts, it adds up really quickly.
Well, this is the thing. Were I in your position, if I'm already doing commercial installations, I'd be looking for these opportunities, large ground mount opportunities. They're not complex. I'm imagining the permitting and all of that probably is, but from an architecture standpoint, installation standpoint, no. And there are big sales. And literally this past week, I've quoted two different systems, both of which were greater than 30 megawatts with these. And by the way, through Frankensolar, if you run into one of these opportunities, if it's a couple megawatt or larger, and most of these will be, special project pricing is available to you to help you be more competitive in this. Reach out to Frankensolar. We have to do it through our authorized distributor, but what we do is we give special project pricing to them for your opportunity specifically. They extend extra margin to you to help you be more competitive. So these turn into very big sales. So
yeah, and I'd also add, they're not the cheapest solution out there for sure. There's less expensive solutions out there, but it's not a lot more expensive, and it literally is the most important part of your solar project. So if it is 2 or 3 cents a watt more than some Chinese option, or a 4 or 5 megawatt project, it's probably money well worth it.
Yeah.
To have a product that is reliable. The other thing we're really seeing with SMA, and that's, and I would say the same about Fronius, is that a lot of companies during the feed-in tariff days, they were looking for the cheapest possible inverter out there. And now, 6 years later, they're coming back to us because there's no support and the inverter manufacturer is no longer around. And what are they replacing it with? Now they're installing an SMA inverter or a Fronius inverter because they know that product's going to be working for a long time. It's also usually the O&M department
That's
that
right.
now deals with
That's
it.
right.
And they have to deal with it for the next 15 years, right? So, you know, partnering with a company that's really strong, there's a lot of value in
You're right.
that.
Yep. Thanks, Danny. Okay, just touching on the data manager just for a minute here, just to make sure you're aware of it. And you would need this with our Peak3 installations. And we really encourage you to go with this for every CORE1 installation as well. What this is a data aggregation device. It's taking the monitoring data. It then feeds it up to our monitoring portal. Likewise, you can build, if you're doing a large installation, where you can build configurations and download those configurations to the inverter from this. It can do it can simplify software updates. It does, as I mentioned, by virtue of this functionality, it gives you the ability to do remote parameterization. It's a big deal. You can do things like zero export to it. So using, for instance, Modbus commands, do zero export to the grid and adjust those parameters automatically. And Alex could speak much more eloquently to this than I can. But typical configuration with the data manager, a single data manager will support approximately 50 inverters. Whereas, by the way, just side note, that integrated functionality that we're going to be offering in our new inverters, it's a scaled down version of this, and it'll support approximately 5 inverters with that integrated functionality. In the CORE1 environment, just a side note here, if you don't have this, if you don't have a data manager, the largest power plant you can define from a monitoring standpoint is 4 inverters into a single power plant. If you add that fifth inverter, then and you don't have a data manager, it looks like 2 different power plants. Now, from a production standpoint, it's no different. It's just strictly from the monitoring standpoint. Alex, am I missing anything about this? Is that pretty much it?
Spot on.
Okay. And as I mentioned, it gets you into our latest generation monitoring portal, NXOS. We're migrating everything over to NXOS over time, but this gets you into NXOS. You need this to get into NXOS in the CORE1s. Inverters that have that integrated function, you'll automatically have this connectivity. It's basically just a updated version of our monitoring portal. This is the kind of the look on it. And we have this, this tile architecture, so there's different parameters that this gets you into. And you can see down to the MPPT level. You can get monitoring information down to the MPPT level on each of these different parameters that Analysis Pro functionality monitors.
Art, are the current generation of Sunny Boys on the NXOS, or is it?
They are. They do go. The current generation of Sunny Boys, you don't need this to get into NXOS.
Okay.
Okay?
So they're already in there.
They're there. Yep.
Unless you go to 5 of them.
Yes, that's true. Yep. Is that true, Aaron? Yep, that's true. Yep. So, but in most residential environments, that's not really, we don't run into that. But if you did run into that and that was an issue for you, then you'd want to add a data manager. Okay. And then the last thing I want to just underscore here, you know, service, SMA service. When you call into our toll-free number, you're going to get into our wait queue. And, you know, at any given time, it's first come, first serve. It can be frustrating if you're up on the roof or something and you need support. You know, that 15 minutes feels like 2 hours that you have to wait. And then you get a level 1 technician that asks a lot of rudimentary questions and you're already pissed off and they're asking you things that you don't think they should be asking you. Whereas we have this online tool called the Online Service Center. And what I'd like to do is, for those of you that are not already, SMA customers, not already registered for this, please get registered for this. You have to go through a registration process. Get registered before you need it. But it's on, you can open up trouble tickets or cases, as we call them, online. You can view the status of existing cases. You can add comments to existing cases. It also gets you into our knowledge base. You can also apply for our service rebates through this. You know, this maybe isn't appropriate in every scenario. Sometimes you're on site and maybe you need to talk to somebody. But a lot of times, this is going to be a superior way for you to get service support. So I want to make you aware of this, you know, in the interest of improving your service experience. Any questions on that? No? Okay, that's about all I have to say. And it, you know, is I've said, and I'll try not to cry here. This is my last presentation in my career, and it's been great. And you know, the future, this industry for the foreseeable future is just really great, and it's been a pleasure. I came from an information technology environment that was a whole different environment. This has been a wonderful experience, and I'll miss working with y'all. Thank you.